Everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, Jeff Waldorf with you on this Friday evening. Yes, the week is finally coming to a close, and it's been an insane week. And guess what? To cap the week off, we have more insanity, of course. We're going to talk a little bit about the Cohen interview that happened earlier today, or I should say it aired earlier today. It actually happened right after Michael Cohen was sentenced. We also have the chief of staff drama going on, including Jared Kushner. Will Jared Kushner be the next Trump chief of staff? We'll also talk about Chris Christie and who else has been considered for that position. Very important position. Then we have, of course, Ocasio-Cortez, another story on her. And George Conway versus Rudy Giuliani. That's a fun story. So we got a whole bunch of fun stuff today on this Friday. Going to take it a little bit easy. Then, for the last story, if we can get to it, I'm going to talk about Cyntoia Brown. So I've been trying to get to that story all week, and we'll finally talk about it hopefully today on the show. So let's dive into it. Before I do, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. You can donate through Super Chat. Also, there's a Venmo, Jeff dash Waldorf on Venmo if you want to help out the show as well. Some of you on there doing that, thank you very much. Helps out. Let's see. You can also buy merchandise. That mug I showed you guys yesterday is pretty awesome. Actually seems like it's high quality, which is weird, but hey, great. That's awesome. If you want to check that out, that's on our Teespring and all that. Okay. I think that's it. Patreon.com/TYTNation. Remember that too. You know, the normal stuff. Sign up if you're looking for a Facebook alternative that is trying to go ad-free and it's free to sign up, etc. We got a partner, microbinge.com. That's also a place that you can go as well. And eventually, I'm going to sign up, so you can follow me there. Twitter. I know a couple of you are asking what my Twitter handle is, at Jeff's Politics. And, of course, for the official show Twitter account is ATN on TYT. So both of those are my Twitter accounts. So that's where you can find me there if you just signed up. All right, guys. That said, all the shout-outs and stuff over with. Let's dive into the show. Okay. Now, following his sentencing, former Trump lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen sat down with ABC's George Stephanopoulos for what was described as an explosive interview. I don't know if it was necessarily explosive. For me, it was, yeah, kind of hearing things that we already heard before, but, you know, that's just basically what the media is saying about it. Now, in it, we did find out some interesting things that we already knew about, kind of, and those are the crimes that Cohen had admitted to and what he shared with prosecutors. Now, what's interesting is some of those crimes implicated President Trump. Now, for example, Trump himself was one of the people, according to Cohen, who negotiated the Karen McDougal payment between, Cohen and AMI Media, who runs the National Enquirer. Now, according to the site Law and Crime, Cohen said he didn't have much to do with that payment, saying the negotiations were really just between Trump and AMI CEO David Pecker. That man's name never gets old. And then David Pecker's counsel. So Pecker, of course, is now cooperating with the investigation in the Southern District of New York on those payments. Now, Pecker's counsel said, and this was an interesting tidbit from Cohen himself, when they were having that discussion, apparently AMI and Pecker's lawyer said, oh, hey, you know what? This could be a bit of a legal problem. He said, I just reviewed the documents. Cohen said that Trump knew it was wrong, but did it anyway to, quote, help him and the campaign. Well, now that would qualify as a campaign contribution. And here's Cohen and AMI admitting that, yes, we made this payment, and we knew that we made this payment for the specific purpose of helping Trump's campaign. Not that, oh, no, I just wanted to make this payment for, out of the good of my heart. No, that's not what happened at all. So now AMI, Cohen are saying, yes, it was Trump. It was orchestrated by Trump. He knew about it, and he told us to do it. Again, that proves that the president is a liar. Now, I've been saying that since 2015, so this is nothing that you haven't already heard. Still, if people needed more proof, there it is. But then again, at this point, how much more do you really need? Now, there's more. I've got some videos for you on this. Later on in the interview, Cohen said that Trump had changed significantly since taking office. So I guess apparently before, when he was in Trump Tower, when he was running his business, the Trump Organization, and not having to deal with bad press or actually attempting to be presidential, he was apparently a different person to Michael Cohen. And now I'm going to go to that, and I'm let's see Cohen explain why there was such a change. Let's take a look.
Is not the Donald Trump that I remember from Trump Tower. He's a very different individual.
What's happened to him?
I think the pressure of the job is much more than what he thought it was going to be. It's not like the Trump Organization where he would bark out orders and people would blindly follow what he wanted done. There's a system here. He doesn't understand the system.
So it's different than Trump Tower. Well, no kidding. Now, it's hilarious to think that he didn't actually know that, but there are people out there that still believe that government runs like a business. Hint, it's not. It doesn't. It's not a thing, okay? It's not a thing. Like, it's not the same thing. It's obviously very different. And yes, there are pressures in the office that don't exist in a corporate structure where Donald Trump gets to say, you do this, and they do it. And of course, look, a lot of what Trump says is also, hey, that stuff's actually illegal. No, go ahead and do it anyway, because we're not going to get the scrutiny because we're rich and powerful. It's that two-tiered justice system. But in politics, well, now you have political enemies. Instead of being able to pay off people with campaign contributions or legalize bribes, now you have political opponents, which you deprive power, and they get a little bit angry. Donald Trump attacked the establishment in Hillary Clinton. He pissed off some of the wrong people, and now those people are saying, okay, well, now we have a vehicle to get you back. And that's just focusing on the crimes that you actually have done. Hey, man, you did the crimes. You opened yourself up to it. Not our fault. We're just going to do what we're doing. But now, the other thing is that was fun to say is that Cohen's like, well, Trump just doesn't understand the system. Well, yeah, of course. Of course he doesn't understand the system because he's dumb. He's a dumb person, but he also thinks that everyone else is dumber than he is. That is absolutely comical. But in Trump world, people do actually believe Trump is a smart businessman. Look, how smart is it to go bankrupt 6 times? But Cohen's like, oh, no, I looked up to Donald Trump and his business acumen. How is going bankrupt 6 times and running consistent scams? Like, how is that? I mean, how is that smart? Oh, no, you're a smart businessman. If you take out a bunch of money, if you take out a bunch of loans, go bankrupt and don't pay them back. Anyway, now, again, I think it has to do with the narcissistic cult of personality that he has. So now, again, and there are people around him, people like Michael Cohen, who said, look, I basically believed him and I was devoted to him, which is extremely weird. But nonetheless, you have to have someone that's devoted to you in order to run scams like they did together. Now, another question, speaking of devotion, speaking of loyalty, or now the lack thereof, now that Cohen is flipped against President Trump, here you have massive attacks on Twitter by President Trump towards Cohen, and he was asked about that by Stephanopoulos. Let's take a look.
Why do you think President Trump is lashing out against you in such a personal way, daily almost now, calling you weak, calling you a liar? Is he afraid?
Seems like it. That's what he does. That's what he does.
Are you afraid of him?
It's never good to be on the wrong side of the President of the United States of America. But somehow or another, this task has now fallen onto my shoulders, and as I also stated, that I will spend the rest of my life in order to fix the mistake that I made.
On the one hand, I kind of hate this because you're making Michael Cohen into looking like a good person. Michael Cohen is not a good person. Okay, Michael Cohen went along with all of these scams and then fell in with somebody like Donald Trump. Now, later on, he says, well, what would you say to Michael Cohen, you know, to the past version of yourself before working for Trump? And he said, well, what were you thinking? What are you thinking? I bet he was thinking, I'm working with Donald Trump. I'm going to make a lot of money. That's usually what it's about. But onto the substance here of what he's saying, Donald Trump is, look, he is scared, and that's why he's attacking. That's what he does. Well, gee, I wonder why Donald Trump is scared. Maybe it's because his criminality, his criminal past, is starting to catch up with him. Now, he is afraid, he's desperate, and he's angry. And look, those are some things that you definitely don't want in the most powerful man on the planet. And so, look, the whole thing about his chief of staff leaving, John Kelly, look, you could argue that he was one of the adults in the room that prevented Trump from doing his worst impulses. Now, what's going to happen when he's gone? I have no idea. What's going to happen if he gets some of his appointments, for example, Attorney General? What's going to happen there? I don't know, man. That should be very, very interesting to see in the next coming weeks and months, depending on who, of course, gets into those positions. I'm hoping that the Democrats, I know, can actually fight back on this one. But to be fair, there's a lot of progressives now that at least will be getting into the House. But in the Senate, that's not looking so good there. So, all right. There's that. Let's move on to Chief of Staff. All right. Now, President Trump just can't seem to find anybody willing to work for him. Now, with the news that John Kelly is now running for the hills, and after trying and failing to contain Donald Trump's worst impulses while avoiding his ire at the same time, the president is now left without a chief of staff, or will be. Now, that's interesting. Now, his first pick, Nick Ayers, the current chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence, was thought by a lot to be the likely favorite to succeed John Kelly. However, there's a little bit of a problem with that. Nick Ayers doesn't want the job. He recently announced on Twitter that he's not interested. He said, "Thank you, Donald Trump, VP, and my great colleagues for the honor to serve our nation at the White House. I will be departing at the end of the year, but will work with the MAGA team to advance the cause." And of course, he is becoming a lobbyist. There you go. Now, one source said Ayers, the father of young triplets, wanted to take the job on for a short-term basis to see whether or not he could manage it. But then, after doing so, grew less interested the more time he spent with President Trump. So look, Ayers is like, man, I really want to move up. I really want to, have this powerful position. Okay, let's give it a test run. After spending a little bit of time with the president, he's like, nope, I'd rather spend time with my triplets. These little kids are so much better than this guy. no, not going to have it. I'd rather be a lobbyist. Look, to be honest, that's the least shocking thing I've ever heard. I mean, this kind of goes along the lines of other people that have worked for President Trump who said that it was a miserable time, like, for example, former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. Now, Tillerson said at a fundraising event for the MD Anderson Cancer Research Center last week that, quote, the president would try to do illegal things. Now, let me give you the quote here. So often the president would say, here's what I want to do, and here's how I want to do it. And I would have to say to him, Mr. President, I understand what you want to do, but you can't do it that way. It violates the law. He doesn't care, though. He's like, no, this is the way I want to do it. You can't, though. You're literally trying to break the law. You can't actually do that. And then he would throw a fit and then go and call his friends during executive time and bitch. Now, is there any wonder why people do not want to work for this guy, this idiot? Now, that's not the only reason. Of course, yes, dealing with the difficulties probably is the main reason. But you also have the Mueller report. Now, the Mueller report's dangling over the White House like a sort of Damocles. And we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's in that report. We don't know what it's going to reveal or what's going to happen because of that. So that's a big unknown. And a lot of people are looking at that like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm not going to be interested when that thing falls. So, look, and to show you how bad this is, how nobody wants to work for him, just about, not even pathetic suck-up Chris Christie is interested. Now, earlier today, Maggie Haberman shared this from Chris Christie. This is a statement. He said, it's an honor to have the president consider me as he looks to choose a new White House chief of staff. However, I've told the president that now is not the right time for me or my family to undertake this serious assignment. As a result, I have asked not to be considered for this post. Chris Christie. This is Chris Christie who basically allowed Trump to tell him to order the meatloaf. No, you're going to have the meatloaf. You're going to have the meatloaf. Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir, I will have the meatloaf. Or after a campaign event, go, get on the plane, get on the plane, get on the plane. Go ahead, Chris Christie, stand behind me. That Chris Christie, who was so pathetic, who had been cucked so many times by the president, is now saying, not interested. No, don't pick me. Don't pick me. Don't pick me. I got things I got to do. What do you have to do, Chris Christie? What do you have to do? I don't know, maybe be a lobbyist somewhere, which is a hell of a lot better. And of course, will make a lot more money than being President Trump's chief of staff and basically punching bag. Because that's what that job is. Now, another thing you could say about that is maybe Chris Christie also knows that the ship is sinking. Maybe with him on board, it might sink a little bit faster. I know I'm terrible. That's a terrible joke. But anyway. Now, former Trump campaign advisor David Bossie, Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, and Energy Secretary Rick Perry are also said to be among those under consideration, according to multiple news reports. So, yeah, wow, a bunch of heavyweights there. Yeah, David Bossie, Rick Perry, definite mental heavyweight there. Do a great job. Just like he's doing a great job at the Department of Energy. Now, after Ayers turned down the job, and this is some of the people who've also said no, Trump tried to recruit Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. Mnuchin was like, hell no. United States Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer also said no. Top economic advisor Larry Kudlow is like, I know nothing about being chief of staff. No. And then, of course, you had Mark Meadows, who is one of the top conservatives in the House of Representatives, also saying, no, don't pick me. Don't pick me. Oh, how sad. Nobody wants this job. Nobody. Well, okay, to be fair, I think there are yeah, a couple people out there that do want this job, and that's one of them might be Newt Gingrich. Oh, could you imagine Chief of Staff, Nasty Newt? Oh. Look, that's just floating around. I don't know if he's been asked, and I don't know if he's already declined. But, oh, man, Nasty Newt. Disaster. Another name that has floated up, and we'll talk about that more later, is Jared Kushner. His son-in-law. There's some big problems there, too. Boy, is he really scraping the bottom of that barrel. If not just picking the barrel up and digging under it right into an open sewer. No smart person appears to want that terrible, terrible job. And it's funny because this is actually a really powerful position. This is one of the, I believe it was the second most powerful position, at least in the executive branch, or at least in the country. And yet this job under Trump has been reduced to not upsetting the baby. This, my friends, is what the executive branch has been reduced to, the presidency. Oy. And they used to tell you had to be smart to be in the White House, that you had to work hard to be in the White House. Not so much anymore. Sad. Okay. Well, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll come back. We have the Jared Kushner story, more details into that, and all that. Plus, Ocasio-Cortez firing back against that. And Kellyanne Conway, her husband, versus Rudy Giuliani. Fun times. Stay right here. We'll come back. Oops. Round the Nation. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf with you. Let's see. What was I going to address? I don't remember, so let's just dive into the show. Isn't that weird? It's Friday, guys. All right. Let's move on to the next story. Now, the Trumps are apparently all about keeping it in the family. Quite literally, and sometimes also creepy if you remember some of the stuff he said about his daughter Ivanka. But in this case, it could be about the soon-to-be vacant chief of staff position. Now, right now, it's being filled by Mick Mulvaney on a temporary basis while he tries to find a new chief of staff. Now, among those he is considering, after a bunch of others decline, which is hilarious, is his son-in-law. Now, Jared Kushner, according to HuffPost, the husband of Trump's daughter Ivanka and already an official White House advisor, met with Trump on Wednesday about the job, according to a top Republican close to the White House and President Trump. Now, he and two others confirmed Kushner's interest in the position, did so on the condition of anonymity. So, yeah, we don't even know. But anyway, Kushner has been apparently pushing for his own candidacy with Trump. He's like, oh, can I have it? Can I have the job? Can I have the job? Look, I worked on criminal justice reform, and hey, I can work with Democrats. I can work with Democrats. But wait, why would that be a positive when all the Democrats are going to do when they get into power is go after Trump? I mean, that's what they're going to do. They have an entire litany of investigations lined up as soon as Democrats take the House. But okay, if you think that's a positive, that's a positive. But look, Kushner, to be fair, actually does have some positives when it comes to Trump, and I will actually go and discuss that. But first, the source kind of echoes what I just said and says, quote, I don't know why he thinks that when the Democrats are mainly going to be coming after Trump. I think it's obvious it's because Kushner is not a smart person. In fact, earlier reports about Kushner and his past paint him as a very Trumpian person in his intelligence, which does not bode well. Not only that, but bungling deals and needing bailouts from foreign governments. In fact, some of that whole deal with Middle East blockades and things had partly to do with Jared Kushner asking a foreign government, I think it was the United Arab Emirates, for a $500 billion loan. Okay, then. Interesting. But nonetheless, that's not a negative thing. In fact, that seems like it's a pretty perfect fit. Not very smart. Was a slumlord, by the way, and gets himself into all sorts of financial trouble because he doesn't know how to do business. Well, wonderful. Now, Vanity Fair, I'm going to go to that. Vanity Fair's Bess Levin writes that Kushner and his wife Ivanka, known derisively by White House critics as Javanka, face considerable opposition from both inside and outside the West Wing because of concerns about nepotism, as well as more important worries about Kushner's judgment. Now, he had, according to Levin, has had to repeatedly file addendums to his financial disclosure forms since joining the White House. More recently, he has become a strong advocate for the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, who U.S. intelligence agencies believe ordered the murder of U.S. resident and journalist Jamal Khashoggi after luring him into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. So, look, we've got the transcripts of that, of his last words, what happened. And these people, I mean, they came in there with a bone saw, dismembered him, and carried him out in a suitcase. All from the direction of Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. But here's Kushner saying, oh, no, that's my BFF. That's my buddy. Oh, no, he's fantastic. What are you talking about? And Trump himself says, oh, yeah, no, Mohammed bin Salman. I love him. He's a great guy. He's a fantastic guy. He didn't do it. But we pretty much know he ordered it. That doesn't matter. He didn't do it. He's a tremendous guy. Of course. So look, from the outside, supporting Mohammed bin Salman is a strike. A strike one. Donald Trump, though, no, he's like, I love the Saudis. You know what they do? They come in, they buy my condos. They buy my properties. They rent rooms in Trump Tower. And not only that, but according to an earlier report, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia also tried to get veterans, tried to recruit veterans by paying them through Trump Tower, or paying Trump Tower, or trying to funnel money through these veterans to the Trump organization to, of course, lobby them to be more favorable towards Saudi Arabia. It really is gross. So, nonetheless, that's one of the reasons he loves Saudi Arabia. But again, there's more problems in to Kushner than just nepotism, right? And that too. As I mentioned before, he messed up his financial disclosure forms a total of 39 times. He also paid $1.8 billion for an aging midtown skyscraper on the eve of the financial crisis. Why would you do that? Why would you even consider doing that? Because you're not smart. He's stupid. He also ran the Observer, which was a once successful newspaper, into the ground. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? He's a serial bungler, just like his father-in-law. If someone like that can become chief of staff, grab your popcorn, guys. Shit's going to get insane. It's going to fall apart even faster because, look, at least with John Kelly, and I disagreed with him on 1,000 different things. John Kelly was at least somewhat of an adult in the room. Jared Kushner, no, he's going to be like, what do you want, Daddy? What do you want? I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do anything for you. Just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. What law do I need to break? It's going to get insane. Brace for impact, guys. Okay. On a related story, let's go to Ocasio-Cortez. Now, President Trump is searching for a person to replace John Kelly as his chief of staff. He has been very unsuccessful, and so recent reports have said that he might possibly replace Kelly with his own son-in-law, Jared Kushner. That would be, of course, deeply problematic due to nepotism. So now, Representative-elect Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she decided to open up a little can of e-whoop-ass on Kushner and tweeted this. Ah, yes, of course, it's classic Republican bootstrap meritocracy, where the smartest, hardworking, most fitting person for the job just so happens to be your son-in-law. Oh, damn, tell us how you really feel. Now, that tweet is pretty amazing in a couple of different ways. But first, before I get to my analysis of that, you had White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders also considering leaving at the end of the year, telling reporters that, well, I wasn't aware that Kushner was under consideration. Well, that's because you don't know anything. You're not a smart person either. But she said, quote, I think all of us here would recognize he will be great in any role that the president chooses to put him in. He has done a tremendous job on a number of fronts, whether it was on trade or what we've seen play out over the last week on criminal justice reform. He's done a great job on all those efforts. Really? No, he doesn't do anything. He hasn't done anything. He is a bungler. He has no idea how to do anything in his role as advisor. What kind of advice is he bringing to the president? Nothing. Nothing. And certainly he will not do well as chief of staff because he doesn't bring anything to the table. And again, that is the second most powerful position in the country. You kind of need to know things and know what you're doing. He has no background in this, so he would be pretty freaking useless, which I guess is the point. Because what's President Trump want? Somebody who's useless, who won't fight back on him, and who will let him do whatever he wants. But it's even worse because, look, the fact that he's even getting considered is ridiculous. And imagine if Hillary Clinton put up Chelsea Clinton as her chief of staff, or at least considered it. That would be insane. Or President Bernie Sanders put up Levi Sanders, his son. No, unacceptable. You can't do that. Not that I would think Bernie Sanders would actually do that, because Bernie Sanders is a far smarter person than Donald Trump, and that goes without saying. But you get my point. But Ocasio-Cortez, well, she's absolutely right. And it kind of hits the Republicans on the head where it hurts. The Republicans, including Donald Trump, they don't believe in meritocracy. They don't actually believe in the people that work the hardest or the smartest. They don't believe that they should get the jobs. No. See, the thing that the Republicans do is they basically put anybody with money ahead of anyone else. And that's mainly old money, inherited money. Oh, well, you got that money from your dad? Great, wonderful. Now you're going to give some to us in campaign contributions? Wonderful, you deserve it. You deserve everything. And look, Trump himself is like, I'm just going to put my family in these positions of power because screw it. Because I can. Who's going to stop me? I have no limit and I have no filter. And that's it. I'm just going to do what I want, however I want. That's why he can't keep a chief of staff that actually follows the rules and norms of that position. He just can't keep them there. He just can't keep them there. And look, it is important too why this decision, Kushner, would be also disastrous and why it goes against the so-called meritocracy that the Republicans believe in. Look, putting family in high places that are not qualified is one thing, but the reason that he's doing it, I think, is because they'll protect him. And of course, most importantly, they'll also protect the Trump brand, including his business assets, his money. The thing that he cares most about is his money. Not only that, but they'll be deferential to him and allow him to do whatever he wants. And remember, as Rex Tillerson mentioned, Trump kept trying to do illegal things. And he kept having to say, no, Donald, I understand what you want to do, but you can't do that. That actually goes against the law. Now, do you think that Kushner or anybody else in his family wouldn't do illegal things for Trump or let him do illegal things? And that's what this is about. And if you don't understand that, look, if you don't understand that, if you think, oh no, that's not going to happen. Come on. Well, I got news for you. I think you're wrong. Okay. All right. I'm taking another break. We'll come back. We got 2 more stories here for you guys. And if we have any time left over, then we'll do a couple of questions, a little quick Q&A before we get out the door for the weekend for TYT. So let me take a break. Super chats, please like and share if you haven't already, and we'll be back right after the break. Everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation here. Jeff Waldorf with you. All right, so let's dive in. We got a couple more stories. Let's go to Giuliani versus George Conway. That's fun. All right. Now, the husband of Kellyanne Conway just trolled Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. Now, Giuliani, of course, thinks that the AMI scandal involving the National Enquirer, President Trump, and hush money between one porn star and Playboy model that President Trump allegedly had an affair with isn't that big of a deal. Now, look, I don't think the affair itself is a big deal, but paying hush money, that actually might be a big deal because it breaks campaign finance law. Now, let me give you some details on that. AMI under David Pecker used the Enquirer, with Cohen helping facilitate matters behind the scenes to help President Trump. Now, of course, they did so through several different things, you know, most of which not illegal and absolutely fine. For one, you had endorsements, right? It's fine if you want to endorse somebody. That's not a problem, right? Now, what could be a problem, or is a problem, is running a catch-and-kill operation to suppress damaging stories of Trump's alleged affairs, and publishing numerous negative articles on Trump's political enemies and adversaries in the Republican Party. Now, two of those things perfectly legal. You want to run hit pieces against other candidates, that's fine. However, you do have the problem with those catch-and-kill stories because those involve payoffs. Now, one of those operations involved Playboy model Karen McDougal. Now, Cohen, Trump, and AMI successfully buried that story prior to President Trump's election. Now, the problem with this is that hush money payments organized by President Trump are a campaign contribution well in excess of the $2,700 campaign contribution limit, as well as subsequent lies about that contribution. Still, Giuliani on Twitter said, "Nah, overblown." Quote, "Nobody got killed. Nobody got robbed. This was not a big crime," Giuliani told the Daily Beast on Wednesday. He added that, quote, "I think in 2 weeks they'll start with parking tickets that haven't been paid yet." What, are you trying to say you got parking tickets? I'm just asking. But seriously though, oh, you know this crime? It's not that big of a crime. I mean, come on. Yeah, tell any prosecutor that. If you're someone like me who has no power, who is not the most powerful person in the world, why don't I just use that as my defense? Oh, come on, it's not that big of a crime. Come on. Just let it go. Let it go. What are you going to charge me for parking tickets now? Come on. Yeah, let's see how that flies. Look, if I had a lawyer as dumb as Rudy Giuliani, I'd probably shoot myself. I mean, holy crap, man. First he goes from, what crime, to, well, that's barely a crime. But a crime is a crime. I thought you guys believed in law and order. Oh, no. Actually, you know what? They do, but only when it's someone else's crimes. Like, I don't know, lock her up, lock her up. I happen to remember that. You guys remember that? I know it was so long ago. But look, why not apply it to anybody else, right? For example, Bernie Madoff, right? Now, Bernie Madoff committed the cardinal sin. He ripped off the rich. Well, technically, you could say he robbed someone. So I guess, you know, what are you going to do, right? But nobody got robbed in this case. Oh, no. It's just that you lied to people about campaign finance, how much money you gave to the Trump campaign. But, okay, let's talk about different types of crimes. For example, carrying marijuana. Just a little bit of pot. Well, people get arrested and thrown in prison for that still. Primarily people of color. Well, nobody got robbed. Nobody got killed, right? So why not just let them go? I mean, if we're going to go by that logic, and actually, to be honest, I'm in favor of letting them go because I don't think that should be a crime. Nonetheless, campaign finance violations, well, that is a crime, and it should be a crime because it facilitates the purchasing of our government. And that's a bit of a crime, right? And look, in this case, It's to bury negative news stories about you to influence the election. So what happened? What happened? Are nonviolent crimes really crimes? I mean, that's a question. You're a lawyer. Are you supposed to know this? Is paying hush money to make sure a negative story doesn't impact elections, is that a crime? Yes, it is a crime. It is a crime. Now, look, I love this, right? So now George Conway, Kellyanne Conway's husband, keeps trolling the president on Twitter, which must make for a very awkward date night with his wife. Now, so he's been doing that for quite some time. That's not a new story. Today, he decided to troll Rudy Giuliani. Now, he tweeted in response to this, quote, "I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, except where nobody gets killed or robbed." Awesome. Twitter's a free, man. It's a free site. And yet you get all this entertainment. It's fantastic. But look, Giuliani, God, he's such a dumb person. I would not be surprised if he ends up bungling himself or the president into getting some sort of charge against him when it comes to this. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just saying, I wouldn't be shocked. Okay. So now let's go to a story that is somewhat disastrous. I have exhausted all my fun stuff. Okay. Now, Cyntoia Brown has had a very difficult life and is facing a lot of prison time. Now, back when she was a teenager, 16 years old, she was sentenced to life in prison for killing what would have been her rapist. Now, she was, as I said before, 16 when she was sentenced to life. This was back in 2004. Now, last week, or I should say the week before, the Tennessee Supreme Court ruled that she would have to serve 51 years in prison before she could be eligible for release. Now, since that story has come out and gone viral, a lot of people have been rallying to her defense, and I think that's great because it stands in stark contrast to some of the stories that we did earlier this week. One of them involved a man who had allegedly raped a woman at a party, just getting on, I think it was 3 years of probation for this rape. Now, she was also allegedly drugged, and they decided, oh, let's give you a plea deal. Let's have you plea, put a plea deal in, and then we're just going to give you probation. We don't want to ruin your life, but when it comes to someone defending themselves against rape, well, then we're going to throw the book at you. Now, what happened? Let me give you some details here. Now, Brown was convicted of murder and robbery for killing 43-year-old Johnny Mitchell Allen in 2004 after he had solicited her for sex and brought her to his home. Now, the thing about that is that, look, you can't, first of all, she is underage, so she would be considered a sex trafficking victim. So that's serious in itself. So what he did was definitely illegal, right? So now you could say, but wait a minute, she shot him, she killed him. Yes, because she feared for her life. In fact, she says, it was in self-defense. I thought he was going to kill me. So he takes me into his home surrounded by weapons. Weapons. And I'm afraid that if I said no to him, because I didn't want to do this, I didn't want to be trafficked out. I didn't want to do this stuff for money for my boyfriend named Cutthroat, right? Who was abusive, by the way. I didn't want to do this. So I took my handgun out and I shot him before he could kill me. So now her story is incredibly sad because she says that she had to run away from her adopted family and was living with an abusive boyfriend who was also a pimp. So his name, as I said before, was Cutthroat. And Brown's lawyers alleged that Cutthroat had raped Brown and forced her into prostitution, which, again, it's not prostitution, it's trafficking, since she was literally underage. And she claimed that on the day of the murder, he had hit her and insisted that she had go out and bring him some money. And so this 43-year-old guy, basically a pedophile, says, oh yeah, no, I want to take her home, takes her into his, I believe it was an apartment. After showing her his guns, basically signaling, if you don't do what I want you to do, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to use these against you, and I'm going to kill you. In fact, Allen had reached under his bed, according to the report. Brown thought that, oh my God, he's reaching for a gun. He's going to kill me. So she shot him. Now, prosecutors had argued successfully, apparently. Oh, no, that's not what happened. No, she was going to rob him anyway. So, and since she did take his wallet and his truck, well then, case closed. 51 years in prison, lock the door, throw away the key. So that's the situation, right? That's what happened. But here's the thing, though. Her boyfriend was abusive and threatening. And so, I mean, look, think about what would have happened had she not come home with that money. She could have been the one that ended up dead that day. So now, this is a horrible situation, as I said before. And she was surrounded by horrible people. And I think she did what she thought she had to do to defend herself, to save her own life. But here you have the great state of Tennessee saying, we don't care. We don't care. Now, again, you juxtapose that with the case of, for example, Brock Turner. Well, Brock Turner raped a woman behind a dumpster, and guess what? He basically went free. Barely served any jail time. And then that other case that I mentioned earlier. And they do it, well, obviously I don't want to ruin your life, but ruin a young woman's life. Ruin Cyntoia Brown's life. Well, of course, that's okay. This is an example of the two-tier justice system. They seem to reserve older sympathy for young white men, or even older white men who shoot and kill people. For example, George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman was weak and pathetic. He was so weak and pathetic that he thought Trayvon Martin, who was armed with Skittles and iced tea, was a threat to him. So he murdered him, shot him. He's still walking free, and by the way, has been accused of domestic violence and arrested numerous times since then. That's just one example. There are so many examples of men being able to defend themselves. They get away with it, but when women, especially women of color, do it, they end up getting put away for life. That's a disastrous story, and it's not right. Now, thanks to the backlash, Tennessee's starting to look at it like, you know what? Maybe we should look at this, and maybe we should reconsider letting her get on parole. And I think that's the right way to go, because right now, what justice is being served? Keeping her in prison. What justice is being served? No, she deserves actual justice, not the kind of blind justice that we have right now that only seems to defend people who already have all the power. So, look, I think that we need to, free Cyntoia Brown and to help her get her life together. And I think that is the real justice here. And it needs to be served. So let her go. Let her go. Free Cyntoia Brown. Okay. All right, that's it. That's all the stories I got today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for going around the nation today. Coming up next, will be the Young Turks main show. In a couple of minutes, I have maybe a minute or two that I can answer a couple of questions. If not, I'm going to plug some different things. For example, we have Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation. That's how you can support the show through that. Also, we have a, I can't think of it now, Venmo, Jeff/Waldorf. So if you want to help out and don't want to sign up for anything, that helps out too. Super Chat, didn't get any today, but that's all right. Thank you for some of those ones that, you guys gave me before. All right. Hey, hopefully everybody has a fantastic weekend. Stay safe. We'll see you back here on Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern, right here, TYT Nation. Thank you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Love you guys, and we'll see you on Monday.